Hey guys, it's Kevin again, and yes, I am on this channel. Again, if you guys didn't see my announcement video, don't look for this video on this channel. Go to this channel. This is where the videos are. Go to this channel. That's where videos are now. But this is going to be for a movie review, and a very special one, because this is a movie that was honestly one of my most anticipated movies of this year. I remember I saw the trailer. You guys can look at my trailer reaction on my on my other channel. You guys can look on there. And basically, I was pumped for this movie, and I finally saw this movie. I'm so happy that it finally came out to Solar Movie, because I didn't think this movie was going to come out to Solar Movie until it came out to Blu-ray, and thank God it finally came out to Solar Movie, and that movie is Ex Machina. Ex Machina, Ex Machina, that's what it's called, it's Ex Machina, and I could not wait to see this movie, guys. I could not wait to see Ex Machina. It just looked like an amazing movie. And overall, how is Ex Machina? Ex Machina is a masterpiece. I loved Ex Machina. I think it's an amazing movie. I think this movie is honestly kind of underrated. A lot of people don't seem to be liking it as much as they should, but I love this movie. I really had no problems with it, and let's get into the plot of Ex Machina, because the plot right away is really interesting, because basically it focuses on this guy, Caleb. He is working at basically he's a computer programmer that works at as basically the world's most popular search engine, which basically would be the Google to us, but they can't say Google, so it's called Blue Book. And he's chosen to meet with the company's CEO, Nathan, who, right when you meet him, there's something strange about him. He lives in this secluded house in the mountains, and the only other person that lives with him, he basically is a genius, but the only other person that lives with him is this woman, Kyoko, who's this Japanese woman who's also Nathan's assistant, and Nathan basically wants Caleb to spend a week with him performing a test on this robot named Ava to actually prove if she is an AI. Pretty simple task, right? Well, this ends up going horribly wrong when Ava and Caleb actually start to get very close. She basically tries to get Caleb to turn against Nathan, and gets Nathan turn against Caleb, basically gets the two to turn against each other, so she can basically become human on her own, and basically Nathan tries to warn Caleb to not get close to Ava, while Caleb starts to not really trust Nathan, and that's basically a plot of Ex Machina, and it honestly is a fantastic plot. I love the plot of this movie. It honestly is pretty genius, I have to say. And right around the plot, I was hooked, honestly. The trailer made me so hooked, and I like they didn't really tell you a lot of the movie. They do tell you stuff like the plot, but honestly, that's all. Like, watch the trailer. It doesn't show a lot. I highly recommend you guys check it out. Now, one of the reasons I was most looking forward to this movie is because this was A24's next movie. They have yet to make any bad movies, and they once again made another amazing movie. Honestly, this was probably one of their best. First of all, let's get to the casting here. The cast in this movie, the acting is fantastic. Donald Gleason, I have yet to see him give a bad performance, honestly, and I love what he did in this movie, because he is Irish, if you guys don't know that. He did a fantastic job in Frank. I thought he was great in that movie. But in this movie, I have to say, he did an even more amazing job, because he's putting on an American accent here, and he did a really good job with that. The other thing I loved about Caleb's character is that he really starts to bond with Ava and starts to trust her more than Nathan. I thought that was really interesting, the way he starts to trust Ava more than Nathan. And I really liked his character. He definitely did a very good job with that. And definitely, he kind of was, a lot of people say, oh, his character's not really that interesting, or his character doesn't make sense. I like to think of Caleb as more of how we would act if we saw this robot. We start to think of this robot, we start to, sympathize more with this robot than we would with Nathan. And, he starts to connect with Ava, because why shouldn't he? He really wants to know, why can't he connect with Ava? Like, why doesn't Nathan want him to? He definitely starts to question things about Nathan. I like that he started to question things about Nathan. He gave a really good performance, and I definitely thought he did a very good job. However, the star of this movie, by far, is Elisa Vikander as Ava the AI. Now, if you guys remember Lisa Vikander, she was in Seventh Son. She was absolutely horrible in that movie. She's completely unrecognizable here. Honestly, you would think that she is half robot if you saw her in this movie. She did a fantastic job at playing this character that really just wants to be human, honestly. This robot, the whole movie, just wants to be treated like a human and doesn't want to be treated like a robot, and wants to do whatever she can to get human. And I thought her character was just fantastic, honestly. She really is the villain of the movie, but she builds so much tension to the story, and some of the best scenes in the movie are just her conversations between her and Caleb, and I thought she did a fantastic job with her character, I have to say. definitely she did a fantastic job. She was amazing in this movie. Another thing I loved about her character was just the way she stayed so committed to her role. That's something that everybody did. Everyone stayed so committed to to their roles, and she was one of those people that stayed so committed to her roles, and I thought she was fantastic in this movie. She was great. And also, she honestly had some really great emotional scenes as well. She essentially is the villain of this movie, though. Very much she is, because it really shows a lot of this movie are the consequences of things that she says to Caleb and how it affects him and Nathan's relationship. Oscar Isaac also did a fantastic job in this movie as Nathan, who basically is supposed to be like sort of like a Steve Jobs kind of character. And the second you meet him, you kind of think there's something off about him because he lives in this secluded place and there's no one else that lives with him. There's definitely something off about this guy. So you definitely see how Caleb doesn't start to trust him. But some of the best parts of the movie are just him speaking. You see how smart he is. And I don't know if Oscar Isaac really is that smart in real life, but he really acted like he was that smart, and he did a great job. And the chemistry between Donald Gleason and Oscar Isaac definitely is there. You start to see their chemistry slowly fade away throughout the movie. That's definitely something I also really love about the movie. And the chemistry between Donald Gleason and Elisa Vikander definitely is there as well. Even though Nathan doesn't want them to have this bond, you definitely see that they do start to have this bond. They did a very good job with that. Definitely something I thought was very well done, I have to say. And the only character I'll talk about is Sonia Mizuno as Kyoko. There was an amazing twist to her character that I am not going to spoil, but it was an awesome twist. I didn't see it coming, and if you guys see this movie, do not find out the twist with her character, because it actually spoils one of the best twists in the movie, honestly. One of the most shocking twists of the year. I thought she did a great job, and I definitely really loved her character. She never talks, but she did a great job, I have to say. She's also a very mysterious character, because you wonder, why is she the only other person that lives with Nathan? Like, what is she different from? How is she different from Ava? Like, why does she live with him? And I thought that was really interesting. So definitely she did a great job. Now, the directing here by Alex Garland is some of the best directing of the year, because I love what he does in the movie. The whole movie, there's this constant build of tension, and it's a very slow movie. It's all dialogue. There's no like action throughout this movie till like the very last half. It's all dialogue, and that doesn't mean the movie's boring though. It's because of how good the directing is here. The tone was spot on. It was so dark, and I love the directing that Alex Garland did to this movie. The best part of this movie though by far is the screenplay. The screenplay is so good to this movie, because the movie could have been very boring, but if it had not been for the screenplay, the movie would have been very, very boring. This has to be this year's Foxcatcher. I'm going to say that right now. This is definitely this year's Foxcatcher so far, in the sense that it's a very slow movie, but it's not boring. In fact, I think this is better than Foxcatcher, honestly. I'm not comparing it by any means. I'm just saying that in the way the Foxcatcher was very slow with dialogue, that's what this movie is. If you guys don't like slow movies, don't watch this movie. For me, I could watch this movie because of how interesting the dialogue was. Some of the best scenes in this movie, honestly, not just the dialogue between Ava and Caleb, but also Caleb and Nathan talking about why certain features on Ava occur. There's this great scene where Caleb talks to Nathan about, why'd you make Ava this female robot, and really has some great questions, I have to say. I definitely really like the questions that were put into our head in this movie, and it honestly also is a cautionary tale, because there's a great message of this is actually what's going to happen to human society very soon, honestly. I mean, these geniuses, they're probably going to find ways to make robots, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is our future in years from now. I could definitely see it happening. I think the movie perfectly shows that message, and I definitely love the way the movie showed that. I thought that was very good, and I definitely really enjoyed that. Also, the structure of the movie I thought was really cool, the way they did, like, Ava test number 1, Ava test number 2, that I thought was really well done as well. And also, just the fact that the screenplay was so good from a robot, I thought was really good. It kind of reminded me of what I wanted Chappie to be, honestly. It really did. Chappie, this is what I would have wanted the movie of Chappie to be, is Chappie just trying to be human, because Ava the whole movie wants to be treated like a human, and I didn't really see that with Chappie. Chappie was just, it didn't work. This is what that should have been. If you guys were so disappointed by Chappie, you're probably going to love this movie. Honestly, you probably will, because it perfectly is what Chappie should have been, and it's not what Chappie was, but it's what Chappie should have been. I'm very happy that it was as good as it was. The cinematography of this movie is fantastic, honestly, and it's because of how realistic this robot looks. This doesn't look CGI at all. It doesn't look like cinematography. Also, the dialogue in this movie doesn't feel like dialogue, which is something else. I forgot to say, this movie is extremely, extremely realistic. Like, if there really were robots in the world, this is probably what would happen, honestly. What happens in this movie, if there are robots in this world, this is probably what would happen to us, and the ending of this movie is truly disturbing. It is a very disturbing ending, but honestly, it is a message for what's going to happen to us as a society. when robots are created. But the cinematography in this movie was beautiful. Just the fact that they made Elisa Vikander, I don't know how they did it, but they made her look like a robot. Again, you would think she looked like a robot in real life because of how well done the cinematography is. It doesn't look like cheap robot cinematography. It doesn't look like your typical robots either. These are not like your these are not like typical robot suits. No, they have human faces, but their bodies are all like robotic. I thought it was really cool the way they handled it. The cinematography was absolutely gorgeous. This movie, by far, some best cinematography of the year. Not the best cinematography of the year. That still goes to Mad Max Fury Road, but still, this was some of the best cinematography of the year, and I thought they did an amazing job with the cinematography. The ending's great to this movie too. This movie really flew by for me. I was always into it. It was never boring. I could see if someone's bored by this movie, but I was never bored by it. I found it extremely interesting, extremely intriguing, and I loved about the movie. And now I'm going to talk about spoilers for Ex Machina, because if you watch this movie, you kind of have to talk about spoilers. I mean, there are some pretty huge spoilers that happen in this movie that I definitely do want to talk about that had me on the edge of my seat. I have to say that something else about this movie is that the movie's extremely predictable. And also, this might be the most intense movie of the year that's not an action movie. The most intense dialogue-driven movie of the year is probably Ex Machina. I was on my seat so much throughout this movie. I was so into it as well. I was surprised by how into this movie I was, but I was totally into this the whole time. There was never a time where I'm like, I'm bored by this. There was never a time like that. I was always into the movie, and that was awesome. And I really wish I was seeing it in theaters. I had an opportunity to see it in theaters, but I didn't, and I wish I would have, because it would have been awesome to see it in theaters. But now I'm going to get to the spoilers for Ex Machina. So if you haven't seen Ex Machina, I highly recommend you go check it out. Please check out Ex Machina. It is a very slow movie, but if you can deal with really dialogue-heavy movies, you're going to love this thing. So I'm going to talk about the spoilers now. First spoiler I want to talk about is when we found out Kyoko was a robot, I thought that honestly made a lot of sense, but I never really thought of that. I thought that Kyoko was just some random woman that lived with Nathan. I mean, it made perfect sense when we found that out, but I never really thought that Kyoko was the same as Ava. Definitely, I thought that was very well done. And then the ending of the movie where Ava killed Nathan, I was so shocked that she actually did that. But it made sense why. I mean, clearly she had this hatred for Nathan, and she wanted nothing to do with him. The only way to finish that plan was to kill Nathan, because obviously Nathan would have, obviously Caleb didn't give her an answer of what would have happened if she didn't pass the test, and she wasn't going to let that happen, so, whatever, she thought some bad was going to happen, so she wouldn't let that happen, so that's why she killed Nathan, of course, and I thought that was crazy. But I love the ending of the movie where she puts on all of the human skin, and we see what Alicia Vikander actually looks like. It was honestly a beautiful ending. It was very beautiful, but also very disturbing, because, of course, she takes the look of a human and basically goes out into the world, and now she looks like a real human. And it really shows this great message of this is what our society is going to be one day. If when robots are created, this is going to happen. It's going to wipe out mankind. And we see that with Caleb and Nathan. She killed 2 humans on her own. I mean, she didn't kill Caleb, but obviously Caleb's going to die because he's, like, extremely confused and mortified. And he's probably going to kill himself after what happens because, he was tricked by Nathan. I wouldn't be surprised if Caleb kills himself. I really think that's what happened there, that Caleb killed himself, but honestly, I think the movie really is trying to show that this is what's going to happen to mankind. This is going to be our humanity. And it's a very well-done message. It's a very disturbing message, but it's a very good message as well. And that's why I think the movie's sort of a cautionary tale on why we shouldn't build robots. And that building robots could be a good thing and a bad thing. And this movie shows that, and I definitely thought they did a very good job of showing that. I loved the ending of the movie. I thought it was definitely... And when we saw all the humans, then we saw Ava walking with the humans, that was honestly kind of disturbing, but also pretty beautiful as well, because she got what she wanted, and you're happy for her, but at the same time, she killed Caleb and Nathan, but at the same time, Caleb kind of did to himself because he didn't just listen to Nathan, and there's nothing wrong with Nathan. I can totally understand that. I can understand if, honestly, I go with both sides. I say she got what she wanted, but yet Caleb did this to himself, but yet Ava kind of, made this happen, and it's kind of a disturbing ending, but it's also a beautiful ending, so it really is up to interpretation. What do you guys think about that? I really would love to know. But overall, guys, I absolutely loved Ex Machina. It is by far one of the best movies of the year. 5 out of 5, A+, definitely. I have no problems with this movie. I thought this was a fantastic movie. This will definitely be on my top 10 movies of the year. I know it will be. I can't wait to see what A24 does next, honestly. I need to see While We're Young now. I need to see if it's as good as Ex Machina. I heard it's better than Ex Machina, so I'm very interested in seeing if While We're Young is as good as Ex Machina, because I really don't know if it will be, but we'll see. Highly recommend you guys check out this movie. If you haven't already, please check it out, and I'll see you guys in my next video, which will be our review for tonight's episode of Game of Thrones. So I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.